Hello, hello. Good evening. I'm always so happy to be joined by the SoCal PPM team. They're just a ball of energy. I know it's the end of the week. We're getting close to it. I know Odessa is not excited because there's a Laker game on, but it's okay. We are out here helping our community right now.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go ahead and enable the chat for everybody. Right, all right. Okay. Just gonna wait for people to join, give it a few more minutes. And for those that are joining us, welcome, welcome. Um, please let us know where you're joining from. And let us know who joined us from the last workshop, which was really great. Um, we got a lot of great feedback from the last workshop, which is past Monday, property management as a business owner. And so we're excited to have this next workshop in the Real Wealth Strategy series. Today's workshop will focus on syndication with family and friends. All right. But yeah, just again, let us know where you're tuning in from. You know, put it in the chat. I know like a lot of people like from Alabama and Missouri were joining us, which I was like really excited to see. So I'm super glad that our network, our promotional partners are sharing this widely. And so I'm glad that people can join us from other states. And this, I believe this information like is very applicable to like your own community. So please, we're really happy to have you here. Okay, Paulette, thank you for joining second workshop. Thank you for rocking with us. Let's see. Shannon in LA. Okay, okay, we got the LA folks popping in. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Alicia and Odessa, how are you all doing today?
Doing amazingly well. And yourself?
Good. Good. It's nice. I'm always excited to see the weather forecast getting up there to like 90. Go ahead and take some vacation days in the middle of the week. That's what we do out here. Again, let us know where you're tuning in from. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the presentation. Give me one moment. I think this is it. Perfect. All right. Yeah. Slideshow onto full screen. Okay. Everyone see the screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. It's 5 minutes after. We're going to go ahead and get started. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for everyone for joining this evening. Um, my name is Elizabeth Cotton. I am the executive director of Black Tech Link. We are a California-based nonprofit organization, and our mission is to focus on the economic development of Black communities by providing workforce solutions, technical training, and networking opportunities. And what does that actually mean? So, what we do is we create programs ultimately that support our community. We have youth programs, and a lot of our programs are tech focused, workforce development focused, small business focused. We have programs that support youth, helping them build their technical acumen. We also have programs that support college students, providing them mentorship, opportunities, internship, connecting with employers. And we also support job seekers, those that are underemployed, unemployed, identify careers in different industries. We had a lot of employment partners locally and nationally. So if you know anyone that's looking for a job, please send them our way. We're happy to make a connection if it's a good fit. We review resumes, those types of things. We also provide small business training. This program is a part of our small business mastery program, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But yeah, we started back in 2020. This is our fifth year, 5 years in. Woo. So I'm really happy that I feel like every day is a celebration this year. Is a lot of good things are happening for us in spite of the economic climate. We're really happy to be, pushing forward and making sure that we're getting the resources that we need to make sure that our programming is consistent and continuous. Um, so want to talk a little bit about our Small Business Technical Assistance Program, which falls under our Small Business Mastery Program. This program is supported by the state of California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, Office of the Small Business Advocate, particularly. And this program provides support, consulting, training services to small businesses, nonprofits, and prospective small business. So if you haven't even started a business, you're just in the ideation phase, we are here to help. We have a lot of great business professionals within our network that provide consultation. Some of the folks you're going to hear from today that provide support, whether it's legal, whether it's financing, fundraising, marketing. We even do exporting. So if you are interested in exporting, we have a special program for that. And so tonight we're excited to partner with SoCal PPM, Southern Cali Premier Property Management. And I have two of the directors, the principals, the partners of SoCal PPM here tonight. And I want them to go ahead and why don't you introduce yourselves?
Ladies first.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I am a partner at SoCal Premier Property Management. We are a commercial real estate property management company. I've been in real estate and property management for about 19 years now. And we focus on commercial properties, office, retail, mixed use, um, and what's the industrial industrial properties.
All right. My name is Odesh Riley. I am a partner at SoCal PPM. I've been in property management now for a lot longer than I realized. I love working with my team at SoCal PPM because we're not working on just doing multifamily or houses. We're working on getting into the side that allows you to grow communities, infrastructure, and wealth, commercial, which is strip centers, malls, office buildings, big industrial parks, and all of those. Excited to be on here tonight to kind of go over this process. I look forward to all the questions at the end.
Wonderful. All right. So thank you so much for introducing yourselves. And at this time, I will let you take it away.
All right. So looks like we got a few people on here today, and we're going to talk about syndication and how syndication can really be of a benefit to you. So if we're starting from the first slide, we want to get into like what is a syndication. Essentially, a syndication is you getting together with other people to raise money. So pooling money from multiple investors to buy real estate. And it's something that every culture and a lot of business professionals have done for decades. It's something that is really starting to catch more traction in the minority inner city communities. And it's something that is a very, very, very good way to get you into the commercial real estate, because what people don't understand about commercial, you can do it with residential or commercial, but with commercial, one of the bigger barriers to entry is that you're generally going to need 25 to 30% down just to do a commercial deal. So that's anything, any units, 5 units or up. If you're looking at multifamily, anything that's retail, anything that's office or industrial or mixed use, you are definitely going to need to put down at least 25% for it to debt service correctly. And most people don't have $250,000 laying around. Let's just say it's $1 million property. So if you're trying to raise that money because you see a deal that works really good, syndication is the way you can do it. One of the things you have to really be focused on when you're looking to syndicate is how you're structured your investment model for managing ownership and returns. You have to make sure it is well organized. You cannot do it and turn into a fund if you are not legally licensed to be a fund. So we'll talk about that a little later. So you got to make sure that your syndication stays a syndication and doesn't turn into a fund. One of the cool parts about syndicating, if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have like those Harvard relationships, is you can syndicate using your trusted network. So that is family, friends, people that you grew up with who may have a few dollars, may have gotten a insurance payout, may have a 401k they cashed out or something like that. Allow them, you guys pool your money and you can get this started. One of the great parts of a syndication is you can get some high returns. You can get a property that has a very that you might have found off market or something that needs some TLC. It's in a neighborhood that you know that you can turn it around and you can get that money, put it together, get that property, start making money. You got to make sure that you have people that you trust when you're going into it. That's a huge part. And make sure that everything is legally documented and structured correctly so that you don't run into problems on the back end. Is there anything you want to add in there, Alicia? All right. So we're going to get into structuring your syndication. Choosing the right legal structure, LLC versus a limited partnership, a general partnership, or a limited partner, LP roles. You have to understand what you are doing when you're deciding to set up a syndication. So I always tell people you want to educate yourself on anything you're doing, because coming into it, the general partner is usually going to be a person who's structuring the deal, putting most of the stuff together. They're going to have a good working knowledge of the deal and how real estate works and how the financing works. You want to make sure that you have it in an LLC so that it is a partnership or a business model that it actually allows you to do the things you're trying to do. You got to understand the roles between if you're going to be a general partner or if you're going to be a limited partner. The general partner is generally going to have a lot of the working day-to-day of what's happening, and a limited partner is going to be more of just an investor who gets their money, doesn't pay too much attention probably to what's going on a day-to-day basis. They're just trying to collect their dividends. The reason you like it,
the general partner, though, usually takes on the liability is important to note, too. So you have to be prepared not only to essentially spend the limited partner's money because they're the ones that are providing the capital, but you have to be prepared to take on that legal liability. And it's a lot of fiduciary responsibilities with whoever you're reporting to, whether it's state, local government, or just simple filing your taxes. So you have to be ready to take on pretty much the entire liability of the entire partnership.
Yeah, true. So that's why you want to know if you're doing an LLC or a limited partnership. If you're doing an LLC, you have to set up how the members are seen. Are you all equal partners? Is there a certain partnership strength you have to make sure the LLC is set up correctly. That's the simplest way to say it. I don't want to get into that. That's something you should talk to a professional about. Whereas if you're doing a limited partnership, that you're going to have to designate an LP and a general partner and limited partner. So then you need to know exactly who is what and who's doing what in that LLC. As Alicia said, you as the GP are on the hook because you're the person who has the working knowledge. So you want to make sure you have an operating agreement and investor protections. Let's see, decision-making processes, profit distribution, dispute, and buyout clauses. One of the biggest things over on that list is the dispute and buyout clause. You want to make sure everybody is on the same page and that you have that clause in there 100% of the time, because let's say you get the property, it's doing well, everybody's happy, you have a 5-year projection to sell or to refinance, and then one of the partners has a death in the family, a divorce, anything can pop up. They need their money out. And they're like, we need to sell right now. If you do not have a buyout clause or a dispute clause in your agreement, they can possibly force you to sell and you won't hit the projected numbers you were looking for, or you'll have to scramble to get the money. So you have to have an exact way people are paid out, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Let's see. You want to make
So a couple of things. So the operating agreement, there's a few different agreements when you have this type of structure. The operating agreement is usually going to dictate how everything operates, whether it's the managing general partner, the limited partner. If there's a general partner, it's going to dictate how how everything operates. So it's going to have a profit distribution is also called a waterfall. Sometimes it's called like residual receipts, things like that. So the operating agreement is going to have that. The limited partner agreement usually has, we call it in the industry a ROFR, but it's usually called a right of first refusal, which could also be called a buyout clause. So the right of first refusal generally says if A happens, then we have to do this. If B happens, we have to do this. So as Odessa is saying, if the property does go into some type of foreclosure or some type of familial event happens, then you would go to the right of first refusal, and either the limited partnership or the general partner would be able to buy the other opposing party out.
100%. You want to make sure that agreement is ironclad and that you really have an attorney look at it. It is the lifeblood of a syndication deal. You want to define your ownership, preferred return structures, managing capital calls and distribution. So you want to know, like, typically like profits are distributed through a preferred return. So like 6 to 8% to the limited partners first, followed by like a profit split between the general partners, maybe a 70-30 split or an 80-20 split. So you have to have a good understanding of how you're getting paid, because you don't want to come in as a limited partner and think that you are a general partner and that you're getting paid the same when you're not really doing the work. So if the general partner is finding the property, putting together the syndication, helping raise the money, helping get the property off its feet, and you essentially put in $50,000, but you haven't done anything else, you're less, you know for sure you're on the general partner side, or you know that you're a limited partner, you should realize that you're essentially in the ride to get a percentage, and that's it. And you need to know what that percentage is exactly and how that's going to pay out.
So actually, if you're the general partner, you could technically have a fee structure. So my background is also affordable housing. So we do tons of, you could call them syndication deals, which are putting together a lot of tax credit deals or whatever the deal is. But you could also have a fee structure. So like, for example, if you're the general partner, again, you're taking on the most of the liability, you could charge a property, you manage the property, for example, you could charge a property management fee. You could possibly charge an acquisition fee or an asset management fee. Asset management fees are pretty prominent in, even in commercial, there's asset management fees and asset managers. You could charge promote fees or disposition fees. So you should include in that operating agreement or the limited partnership or general partnership agreement a fee structure to ensure you know who's getting paid, and if such event happens, you would get a fee from that event. You should also define, cash flow and what are considered returns, because sometimes those definitions definitely get skewed and a little bit misconstrued. And so that profit sharing or profit distribution generally comes from returns, and there's definitions to what returns and cash flow are, and NOI, which stands for net operating income. So just make sure that those things are defined as well.
Make sure to define and make sure you know what kind of deal you're going into. So if you're talking about a larger deal, you definitely want to make sure all those things Alicia said are a part of it. Now, if you're talking about buying a duplex or a house or a triplex together, you don't want it to get too convoluted. So you have to know what kind of deal you're going into and what kind of syndication it is, because you don't want to be buying a small property and making it so hard that you can't really get the property ran well because you have too many checks and balances. So a big part of it is doing your due diligence and knowing whether this is a smaller deal that you guys are trying to grow into something you do regularly, or if it's a larger deal like Alicia is talking about, where it's affordable housing, where there's waterfalls, where we're talking about millions of dollars. You need to be very, very, very detailed in those deals, because there's a lot of moving parts. There's asset management, like she said, property management, maintenance, all these different things can be parts of the deal. Next slide. All right, so finding and managing and investment properties. So what makes a good syndication deal? A deal that you think has some equity in it or has a lot of upside potential, but you don't have the money to take that deal down yourself. So let's say you found an 8-unit apartment building, or an 8-unit apartment building, and it is not being managed well, but it's in a nice area that you know very well. 3 of the units aren't rented because the owner has been owning it for 25 years and just doesn't pay that much attention to it. It needs some paint and some basic things done to it, and you know it can go from something that's bringing in maybe $6,000 a month to something that can bring in $14,000 in a year if you just took care of everything. But you don't have $180,000 down to purchase it. This is the deal where you're going to reach out to your friends and family or people that you know that you trust and say, hey, I have a jewel and I know this deal makes money on the purchase. Like, I'm going to make money just buying this thing, but I can't afford it myself. That's the kind of deal that you're looking to syndicate. So you're looking for something that cash flows or something that has a real high appreciation. So a lot of people, I'm in Inglewood, California. A lot of people were syndicating deals in Inglewood in the 2016, 17, before the stadium was built, after it was announced, because they knew that the properties were going to rise in value. So you want to identify underperforming properties when you're looking to do something like this. You want to, anything on that, Alicia?
So you said what makes a good syndication deal. I think, having a diversified portfolio. So if you can, even if you're buying small, like you're saying, a small duplex or something, try to have some diversification, in that portfolio as much as you can. If you can incorporate some type of Section 8, or if you maybe have a mixed use deal where you have small commercial on the bottom and multifamily on the top. So try to have some type of diversity within your portfolio, or other ways to bring in income.
All right. Understanding the difference between equity and debt financing. So equity is essentially you finding investors, friends and family, to put that part of the money in the deal. And the debt financing is the bank. So equity is the money you can come up with in cash to buy down the value of the property. And then the debt financing is that difference that the bank is going to get to help you get a mortgage or a debt service on the property. You want to look into different type of capital raising strategies. You can bring in a large group of LPs, which I honestly would not suggest, or you can go and get 2 or 3 people that you know can cover the majority of it and have them come in as LPs possibly. I personally think the less people, if you're doing a deal that's not like, if you're not a corporation or like a big company doing this and you're doing it personally, the less people the better in my opinion, because it's less people to have to explain things to and coach up regularly. Thoughts on that, Alicia, on the debt or equity side?
No.
Okay. Um, so roles and responsibilities in syndication, as Alicia said earlier, the general partner, deal management, operations, decision making, LPs, passive investors, providing capital, bring the money, sit yourself down. Don't come over here trying to drop off a bunch of ideals. If you are a dentist and you have capital and you've never done a real estate deal and a broker brings you a deal, he's your friend, the broker probably knows a lot more about the real estate deal than you. So I get it. You read something, you saw something, and that should be, possibly discussed. But you should let people do what they know how to do, and you have a better chance of um, succeeding, in my opinion. Um, Anything on that, Alicia, before we move to the next slide? All right. So, financial and tax consideration. How to structure investment returns. So, you're looking at your preferred return. Well, actually, Alicia, this is your thing right here. You want to go over that?
Yeah, I do have some notes on that. So I think we already talked about preferred returns, the profit split. That can be as we have, a 70-30 and 80-20, could be a 90-10. But the structure investment returns are going to be in your limited partnership agreement. So make sure that that's outlined. The tax benefits for investors, of course, are, the depreciation write-offs or the pass-through taxes for LLCs. The opportunities for 1031 exchanges, we don't deal too much with the 1031 exchanges, but they are a great way to offset those capital gains and those transfer taxes that you could encounter when you sell a property or dispose of a property in any way. The fee.
Or can I add to that one?
Mhm.
With the 1031, something, if you're buying a smaller property, the opportunity with the 1031 is you can possibly, let's say your group has two duplexes and they have a lot of equity and value. You might decide to 1031 those two duplexes into a 10-unit building because now you have a lot of equity in those buildings. So you're exchanging those two smaller properties for a bigger property. And that's one of the opportunities 1031s allow for.
Right, but doesn't it also eliminate those capital gains and the transfer taxes?
It does, but it eliminates all of that if you keep all the money in the deal, and it's a 100% investment properties.
Right. Okay. And then, so we did talk about fee structure. So again, if you have a larger deal that has a little bit more capital in it, then it is beneficial for the general partner to incorporate fee structures. So like we discussed a little bit earlier, PMC fee is, 5 to 6%. The acquisition fee can be a percentage, or it can just be a flat fee for acquiring new properties and then putting them in the fund. Asset management fees are could be 1 to 3% of the entire deal. Promote fees are if the deal returns higher than predicted returns, whether that's higher cash flow or anything like that, then you have promote fees that can also go to the general partner. And then again, disposition fees. So how to structure the investment returns, again, have a good fee structure, have a good understanding. The IRS compliance, just making sure that you're charging fair market management fees. So make sure that you do your due diligence on, make sure you do your diligence on even the rent that you're charging. But do your due diligence on management fees, whether they're property management fees or the other asset management fees or promote fees that we talked about. Because there is a standard and you don't want to go too high because it could mess up your deal. Right. So if everybody's getting paid too much or one party's not getting paid enough and the other party is making more, then it doesn't turn out to be a good syndication deal.
Or that with that property management, not just a good deal, it also can get you in trouble, like Alicia is saying. If you're charging 40% for property management and the industry standard is 6 to 8% or 4 to 8%, IRS is going to be like, why are you guys charging so much in property? It just looks like you're stealing from your own business now.
Yeah. Yeah. Clear financial reporting. On the last call, we did talk about having some reporting systems. So, for our actual business, QuickBooks was the best reporting system. There are some investment modules out there within like Yardi, within MRI that you could subscribe to, but make sure that you're just keeping really good track of your finances. You're going to have to do reporting. So your limited partner is possibly going to want quarterly reports. They're going to want to know how the actual properties are doing and how the fund as a whole is doing. So you're technically reporting as the general partner, you're reporting on two different things. The limited partner, they're probably going to pay more attention to that fund report, that quarterly fund report that's only showing how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and what's their fee, what are they getting. So most of the time they may not be, like Odette said, if you have a dentist that's in the deal and he's sending you articles on squatters, you're gonna toss his opinion to the side. But the limited partner may not look at those quarterly property fees. They're not necessarily going to be concerned about vacancy rates or price gouging. They're going to look at the bottom line. If you have other parties in your general partnership, they're probably going to pay more attention to the operating ins and outs. And then your K-1 forms for your tax season should definitely be taken care of by your tax preparer or your CPA. And then as Odessa pointed out earlier, you definitely want to make sure that you're defining what type of partnership you have, whether it's a fund, or you're just creating an LLC and you have investors investing. Because if you're reporting to the SEC or FINRA or something like that, I mean, there are so many guidelines. You're a financial advisor essentially when you have a fund. And so if you do the wrong things or say the wrong things, that especially the SEC, they're going to come after you. So, just make sure that you have a clear definition of exactly what you're doing within this syndication deal.
Because if you turn it into a fund by accident, everybody on here needs to look up the word fiduciary. Once you become a fiduciary, you're responsible for, if you're the general partner specifically, and you become a fiduciary, that means everything financially that you tell people, you're responsible for. So if you tell people it's going to be a 40% return yearly, then that is essentially you telling them gospel. You're not just able to say anything. So make sure you don't turn yourself into a financial advisor on accident because you didn't follow the rules, you didn't structure it correctly, and you're just, you're selling, but you're selling things that you're responsible for now delivering. So we want to get down to, go ahead.
No, thank you so much. We're going to pause a second. I see some questions in the Q&A.
No questions.
Okay. Does Black Tech Link help with structuring and lending syndication? Black Tech Link, we have consultants such as SoCal PPM who are well versed in this area, and so they can help with that. A lot of times, like we had our call today, and when it was regarding like legal structuring, they will advise that you connect with a real estate attorney. Us particularly, so Black Tech Link, we work with a lot of consultants that specialize in different areas of business. We do have a legal consultant who is a small business legal consultant, and I'm not sure if her wheelhouse is real estate, but you can connect with her. She is very helpful when it comes to starting LLCs and corporations and small businesses. So you may just need to talk to her. And her name is Marissa Talbert. She actually led a workshop last week about structuring your business properly. And so I can, if you have a question, I can connect you with her and she can answer your legal questions. And I'm sure if you were able to connect with SoCal PPM, I'm pretty sure they have some real estate attorneys that they can recommend. Again, those real estate attorneys are not our consultants. If you connect with Marissa Talbert, she provides free consultation. Um, and so, what advice would you give to a person who has several properties? However, properties need investors for TLC.
So if you have several properties and you just need cash flow to be able to fix up your properties, I would suggest probably more looking to do a cash out refi or HELOC, honestly, instead of a syndication, because they're already your properties. Unless you're trying to offload a property and you don't mind losing a lot of ownership, because you syndicate the deal, you're bringing in other owners. It's not your property anymore. It's the LLC or the LP's property. So if you're just trying to raise money, I would say you look at refi or look at a HELOC or just look at a basic loan from somebody where you have a friend or a family member give you a real estate loan that you go and you take it, you get it notarized, and you have that deal or that they'll put a lien up against the property to show that it's good faith. And as long as you pay it back, then that lien will have to be removed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then in
Mhm.
last question, will slides be emailed? So everyone that attends our workshops, we add to our listserv, our email newsletter. So after a workshop has been completed, we do provide the recording. Sometimes we may or may not necessarily provide the actual like slides, but we do provide the recording where you're able to go back and see. Um, a lot of you may have participated in the workshop before. Your information was added to our listserv. And so in that last email I sent out maybe a day or so ago, it had our the Zoom recordings. So you're able to go and look at all the Zoom recordings. And as an organization, we're working to create kind of like a hub of all of like a resource hub where people can go and watch all of these like workshops because we've done workshops on legal, financing, like a lot of questions that you guys need support with, tax preparation, bookkeeping. We have a lot of like past workshops, business banking that you guys may need a refresher and we want to make those available to you. So just be on the lookout for that. And if you do have a specific question regarding business, if we do have a workshop that we've done in the past, I will be more than happy to provide that for you.
And then the person in the end, when we do Q&A, the person with the multiple properties, I like to hear a little bit more just to get a better understanding. Possibly I can give you a better answer.
Yes, that was Miss Chrissy Barfield. Okay. All right.
Uh,
Okay. Case study, a successful syndication.
all right. So we can go with a case study, or I can give you an example of the goods and bads that I've actually been in myself. At least he's gonna laugh. I'm gonna use the 4 Hour Roots property because that's one of the last syndications I've done. I got together with a group of classmates or mentees. Um, we finished a program that was like an 8-week program. The students decided that they wanted to buy a property together. We did put everything together, the agreement, we identified a property. I had a client I'm a broker by trade. I had a client who had let me dispose of a few of her properties, a couple of buildings and a few houses, and helped her buy a few houses. I asked if she would be willing to sell us her last apartment building. She was. We got it at a fairly good price. We needed to raise around $200,000. What we did is we essentially took everybody from the group had to bring in a certain amount of equity. We got to the number we needed. I threw in brokers' fees and all the commissions to help buy down the property. And then we still were short. And I had to go to an outside investor to get a large chunk of the 200,000 to get the property down to a price that it was still cash flow. We brought in the investor. He got us for a high interest return on the portion he brought in. Took us a while to pay that down. While we were doing that, the partnership, I wouldn't say it fell apart, but we started it right as we started it right in the middle of the pandemic. So everybody had a ton of time to work on this deal. Everybody was excited, energy. Let's do this. I'm going to be a property manager. I'm going to help lease up. I'm going to paint, blah, 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 blah. We're good. We're working. We're on the phone every other day, and it's amazing. Okay, we're going to be able to do tons of these. We outside hit. The pandemic ended, and everybody from the group disappeared. And it turned into a full-time job for me and one of the other investors. So essentially, over the last now 5 years, 4.5 years, it has been me managing this property. It's a good property. It was a great deal. But what we did wrong, or what I did wrong, is because it was a group of people I liked and I was trying to work with them, we did it as a very democratic partnership, the agreement. So everybody has the same weight of opinion. So every call is a long talk about nothing. And it's very hard to get anything done. Do I still love everybody? I love them. Is the property a good deal? Would I do it again? Yes. Would I change how it was structured? 32 billion%. The fact that we have to have full consensus or majority consensus to do anything from raise a rent to lease up to do anything has made it one of the hardest deals I've ever been in. So if I was ever to syndicate with the next deal I worked on, it was very simple. I'm the general partner. These are what we're trying to do. This is the property I located. If you'd like to put your money in this deal, great. If you are not interested in putting money in this deal, I understand. I know other people. So you have to know your personnel, know who you're bringing in. So the simple part I would say is finding the property, which we did, raising the money, which we did, writing the agreement, which we did, making sure everything was ironclad. Yes. What we did incorrectly is we did not structure the agreement in a way that worked for everybody, because one of the things in a syndication is everybody has to be a working partner, and unless it's a fund, everybody has to have specific duties that they do. So whether that's you're the person who files the K1s, you're the person who calls the property management company, you're the person who checks the insurance, whatever it is, there should be a general part of the deal that you handle regularly to make this not a fund. And that's where a lot of people mess up. Have you seen any of that, Alicia?
Seen any of what?
Where people don't realize they're turning it into a fund from a syndication?
No, not really. It's
Okay.
it's essentially either or. No, I can't say that I have seen that, but yeah, I do remember that deal. I do remember the early days of that deal. It was pretty interesting. And so
Yeah. So that's the example. I would say look for something that you know you can get at a good price, something that you can take down without going upside down, something that you can manage, or that it's still going to be a good deal even if everybody is not getting along, and that you can sell it and make a profit. Don't go into something where there's not enough hair in the deal. So if anything goes wrong, you're going to be upside down. Everybody's going to lose money. So syndicate on home runs, not on singles. My best advice. All right, Elizabeth, what do we have going next?
Tax advantages of property management. Is that
You want to
correct?
speak up? That's kind of, I'm trying to understand why that one wasn't here.
Maybe it was incorrect.
I
That's
mean, you
not
want
the
to
one
make sure.
that I had. Yeah, that might be a mistake.
Okay. Okay. One of the questions that I saw was advice for searching for partners. Ners. Yes.
Advice for searching for partners. General disposition. Look for people who are not exactly like you. Look for people who have. It depends on what kind of partner you're bringing in. So if you're bringing in a partner for cash, you're looking for people who have cash. If they're going to be a limited partner, that's what you. But you also want to get people who understand that it's an investment and it's not a guarantee. And I think that is where we have a hard time explaining sometimes. Any investment has a level of risk. That's why they're so rewarding. And if you bring in people who don't understand that there is a level of risk and they need to talk to you every day, ask what the numbers are, what's happening, why didn't we do this, that might not be a good fit for you. Or a person who can't afford to invest is not a person you should ever bring into a partnership because their tolerance is going to be very low for any type of issues that can happen. And like as we
But
see what's happening.
what if they're an expert and they can put in sweat equity?
And
What if they're a property manager and they just don't have the money, but they can manage the heck out of your property?
then that's perfect. That's really good ideal from Alicia. If a person is an appraiser or a property manager or a maintenance, maybe they're a contractor, then that works good. But the main thing is you want to make sure whoever is coming in, whatever they're offering, is something they can afford to give. So if you're bringing in a person who is a property manager, because that's going to be sweat equity, but they are taking on a role where they just took over 10,000 units and they're going to be swamped every day and they're not going to have time to get back to you, then they can't afford really to be a property manager for you. So whomever you're bringing in, you got to make sure they're able to deliver on whatever investment they have. And then you just want to make sure that that person has some type of tolerance, in my opinion, and you want to make sure that it's a person who is going to be involved for the long run, whatever time frame that is.
Oh, that was really good. Okay, let's look at we're doing good on time. This is really good conversation, and I appreciate you sharing more about syndication. I know a lot of people when they saw the topic, they were like, "What exactly is syndication?" So I really appreciate you sharing that information. At this time, we have a segment of our program called Talkback where we invite the attendees to come into the call and ask your questions directly to Odessa and Alicia. Totally optional, but it's a great way to, if you have comments, questions, this is a really great time to just, uh, get some feedback directly. Let me see. Thanks. Hello, hello, beautiful people. So, see, there's a question. Oh, okay. So, did anyone have any questions? Um, Comments? Now's the time to ask. Alicia and Odessa are here.
I know y'all got some questions out there.
Chrissy, yes.
Okay, first I'd like to thank you all because for several years now I've been searching, because you hear the lingo, generational wealth, create generational wealth. You get property, generational wealth. It's like, okay, I got some property, but I sure ain't got generational wealth from what I can see right now today. So that's why I'm asking a whole bunches of questions because I need some help. Thank the Lord, my properties are airship properties. Okay. And so I have several of them, but I need that's why I asked how to search for a partner, because I'm really looking for either investors and or partners. I'm not for sure, which term it would be. For us to do this thing together, because you can't do it alone. And actually my job is I take care of persons with developmental disabilities and mental health. So I want to kind of gear to the affordable housing, that kind of thing. So, but that's why I'm asking a lot of questions. So I'm really trying to learn about this generational wealth thing. And because right now I don't have it.
Understood, but you're working on it. So you said, what kind of properties do you have?
I have a couple 2-family flats and a couple of single families.
Okay. And you're saying you needed help with more of getting them up to code, or so that you could do more
Right, that's
when
correct. Yeah, to get the TLC, bringing them up to code, and then actually renting the properties out. Rather it be to rent out to individuals, or rather it be out to rent out to an agency that may provide a service and need housing for individuals. But yeah, and one property I'm thinking about Airbnb, but not for sure, But I'm open to suggestions.
Okay. So with multiple properties, and are they leased up? Are they vacant?
Kind of half and half.
All right. So I was
Some are
saying,
vacant, some are leased. So yeah, so kind of half and half.
all right. So my first thing is I would probably try to look for an investor. Have you looked into a HELOC on one of the empty properties? Does it have enough equity for you to do a HELOC on one property and then use the money from that property to fix up all the rest of them? And then when the money is coming in from those properties, you can pay off the HELOC.
Okay, no, I never thought about that.
Because
And
honestly, you seem like you got a pretty great personality and you like to do things a certain way. I think bringing in investors always sounds good until people start telling you what to do and asking you questions.
okay.
And that's just an honest statement. When you're the owner already, it's harder to bring in investors.
Okay,
So I
I
would,
believe it, but I'm actually willing to kind of change that. I don't have to be the sole owner. For all of them. The ones, because several of them don't even have a mortgage, and so I'm kind of stuck between the rock and the hard place, because I'm like, okay, do I want to get a loan or I don't want to get a loan? Because the term what we living in now, I'm like, in case I get homeless, then at least I got a property that don't have a mortgage and I can move in. So it's just a lot right about now.
well, that's a very smart way to look at it. I'm gonna use the sentence my dad always says: "Scary money don't make money."
So
So you bringing in investors or doing a HELOC or refi, you're taking on some debt, even if it's another person. That's debt. They're gonna want you to put some type of collateral. Nothing's free. So you just got to figure out the devil that you want to dance with, whether that be a HELOC, a refi, an investor. They're all going to want some type of contractual commitment from you and that property. So I would look into the HELOC first, the refi second, and the investors third, my personal opinion. And if you are doing it, maybe if you do it an investor, look for somebody who maybe is in that same sphere, that helps, somebody who's done other locations, maybe somebody who's in the property management or asset management background, or an investor who has managed other property deals like this before, so that they have a better understanding. Unless you got a rich uncle, then go to them.
I would be on this call.
Okay, I'm just saying, just in case you overlooked the Uncle Ted or whoever.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much. I see Damien Carrillo.
Yeah, hi guys. Great stuff. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
okay,
are you
awesome.
doing?
Yeah, well, I'm doing well, thank you. I got my little 2-year-old, so I'm gonna be really straight to the point. I appreciate what you guys put together. It's awesome. It's full of a lot of great information. I am looking into this now because I came across some capital, through a family member who wants me to administrate this. My dad, and so he won a case. So anyways, now that we have this opportunity to have funds, I'm thinking, all right, well, I want to invest it on his behalf. He wants me to administrate, and now I'm looking into getting property. And just the other day, ended the phone call with a friend who's like, hey, let's buy property together. And I said, yeah, great. I live in the San Fernando Valley. Everything's too expensive there to really invest and then turn over a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about doing Lancaster, but my question to you is, do you have any resources that can help us kind of evaluate what the going rates are for like 4-unit
Yeah.
residential, I'm sorry, 4-unit properties? Like I know there's Zillow, but Zillow might be a little overstated. What
And we can
resources
give
or
you
what?
some comps. We use the MLS. I use a few other companies to look up properties, UWM, because I have a mortgage and real estate background. I have access to some data that allows us to look at properties. I would say, with going in with the friend, as me and Alicia said earlier in this conversation, make sure if you're going to go in as a partnership that if they're not a real estate professional, that it's an equal partnership so that you're not carrying all the burden because you have the finances. If not, I would say you might want to look into possibly doing like some hard money lending or something. If you have access to capital and another investor who needs cash, you just lend out the cash at a certain interest rate, and you get it notarized. You make sure that the property that they're working on, you have the first right of refusal on it. A few other things. I would just say the biggest thing is slow down to go fast. Don't just hop
Yeah.
into anything because I don't want you losing money that could be a life-changing money.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because the friend who approached me, he's a good friend. He has a lot to lose actually. He's a doctor, so he's looking for you covered a good ground because he may just want to drop cash and he'd want us to get a management company to manage everything. But who's gonna do all the paperwork? I think that would probably be me and administrate everything. So great conversational pieces about the general partnership versus a limited partner.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I'll look into and explore. And is this something that as it evolves, would you guys be able to get involved to some degree to help us out? If maybe we can contract you guys, or I'm just trying to explore. You can't do
Do you
everything
work
by
in
yourself.
Lancaster, Alicia?
I know
I'm
it's
sorry, that's way
it's
too far. He's
it's
asking because I'm in the Inland Empire, but Lancaster is a little out of our range. But we can
yeah,
help you find a few resources. Odessa can help you find the resource to see if it's a good deal. Um,
cool.
and I just want to preface with everyone is, when you're think about doing this with family and friends, just make sure that this won't be something that will truly ruin your relationship forever. Because I have gotten burned by a couple of friends since I started my business. I actually lost two of my best friends. So, one of them burned me on rent in one of my rentals. So, um,
Yeah, it
just
happens.
be careful. Yeah, just be careful and just think, if it's only money at this point and something goes down, then will you guys still be friends? Then keep going. If not, then just think about who you're partnering up with.
Yeah.
So we do have one other partner in the company. Let's talk to maybe Odessa and I talk to him and see what kind of help we can give you and make sure that you're partnering with the right accountant, the right real estate broker, maybe the right uh attorney, all of that. Maybe we can help you with those resources, or maybe Odessa can do some consulting because he has the finance company as well. But we might be able to help you. So we are doing one-on-one consultations on Wednesdays at 10. If it's something that if it's a time that works for you, then maybe we can just spend a little bit of time just kind of helping you talk through what your next steps would be.
Yeah, I'm open
That's
to that.
exactly, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at. Especially, I mean, it's in the early stages, but getting prepped up, and again, part of what I really appreciate with what you guys do is like you guys are the catalysts, for a lot of these conversations to be had. It kind of sparks people's minds to say, hey, you know what? I just need to inform myself a little bit more, and you guys make it easy to get that information. So that's what really helps, enable these deals to go through. So I for one appreciate it. And how can I get in contact with you guys again? Will you guys share your email or this presentation deck so I can refer to it?
Yeah, for this presentation, since so many other people asked, we will share it out. We'll also share the recording, as I mentioned before. If you're on this call, you will be added to our email list, and you'll get access to like past workshops and everything. But
Awesome.
yes, and
Thank you guys.
also if you want to like schedule time, I know Alicia had to drop off. She had a meeting at 7. But if you are interested in like scheduling time, I did put my Calendly, Black Tech Links Calendly link in the chat where you can schedule time to chat with myself, Odessa. We also have other consultants in our network, whether it's a legal question, financing, marketing, exporting. Please feel free to schedule some time to chat. Thank
Yeah,
you.
hit me up, Damon. This is my wheelhouse. This is stuff that I don't mind talking about. So go for it. When hop on that Calendly, get on our calendar.
Yeah, we'll do, guys. And again, thank you so much for what you guys do. It's greatly appreciated.
Our pleasure, man.
Yeah. I see another question. Nayiri Nahabedian. Did I say that?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the presentation. It was very helpful. I do have a question. I am very new to possibility of investing, and so my question might be very elementary, but
No
can
problem.
you say a little bit about sort of the ability to have a profit? And I understand it's an investment, there's no guarantee, but between as a limited partner, for example, if one was to put in 100,000 or get a loan and put in 200,000, so that's a loan that how is there enough income that will be generated, and to what extent will there be profit or something? Yes.
So the number one thing when you're looking at syndicating a deal, you want to look for a property that is an underperforming property or a property that you have the inside track on that you're going to get below what the retail price is. So any deal, if you ever look at investors who make money regularly, you make your money on the purchase, not on the sale. So if you're looking at a property that you're already going to either be up in equity when you buy it, or you have to do something simple to adjust it to get higher rents per se, that you're already going to cash flow, those are the type of properties you want to be identifying. Now, properties where, like one of the issues I will have a lot of times, I'll have investors and they want, in their head, they're thinking of a location. So they'll be like Santa Monica, just using it as an example. Santa Monica is a great place. I want to invest in Santa Monica. When you say that, I'm already worried about your investing style because you're thinking about a location, not a cap rate or a cash on cash. So when you're talking about it, let's say you're putting 100,000 into a deal and you're an LP, and if you're taking out a loan on that money, you want to make sure whatever that interest rate that loan is, that whatever the property that you're buying and you guys are syndicating to get should be kicking off more cash to the LPs to cover that plus some. So if you're taking out a loan at 6%, then you need at least something that you're going to be guaranteed 7 to 8% just to even be worth your time. Because You can't take on a property that's going to kick off 4% to the LPs when you're over here with a loan for 6%, because now you're just giving money away. And then you're going to be worried about, oh, is this going to sell for more? Is it going to be equity? How are we going to do this? You're already kind of messed up coming in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the trick is to really be able to buy something that's, yeah, as you described, that's low performing.
Correct. You always want to look for, that's what investors do. Like, I'll flip a house or I'll buy a deal to syndicate. Like, I'm looking for something, like right now, I'm looking at a triplex in South LA where I'm trying to get the owner to carry the note as the bank for me. I'm going to give him a certain amount of money to hold the note I'm essentially turning him into the bank. Here's $30,000. You're the bank. I'm going to fix the issues that you have with the property, because he came to me for property management, but he just really doesn't love the property. So I'm like, how about this? You make your money that you were going to make as an owner from me, and then I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to get all the upside because I'm going to do all the work. But then in 3 years, I'm going to pay it out free, and I'm going to buy it 100% from you. But until that time, you're going to get a monthly payment from me. That's money in your pocket. You're still going to get the tax benefits because you get the write-off potential. And if I don't perform, just like with the bank, you can foreclose on me. Now you got the money I gave you, plus the month's rents I've paid you, and you get the property back, plus all the money I put into fixing it. So it's a win-win for both sides. He's carrying the note to help me, and he'll make money, plus has the potential, if I fail, to get the property back.
Yeah, thank you. I hear that. And people and regular, I guess, people who are not in property management or are not really in this every day, they would be able to find those types of properties, because it seems like everyone is looking for those types of properties.
Everyone is looking for them, but if you're a person who can come with some capital, so there's two types of people who are always going to get into good deals: people who have capital and people who know how to locate properties. Like, if you can find a deal, there's always people to give you money. And if you have money, there's always people who have good deals. You just have to, if you're the money side, you want to make sure you're vetting, you trust the person, they have a good track record, and you want to, if you get with Elizabeth, I can look and see what books I would think. I can't think off the top of my head, but there's a few books. They're not too hard, just on the basics of like what to look for in an investment, because you just want to have the basic understanding when you're going into business with somebody of how the business works.
Got it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. This was so good. Thank you, Odessa. Before, we close out, I just want to see if anyone had any more questions, comments. No? Great. Thank you again for this workshop. We do have another one coming up, I believe, next week. Let me confirm the date really quickly. Let me see.
And for Nairi, while she's looking at that, make sure you don't take on any debt for a loan before you've already identified the property, because you don't want to start the clock ticking on money. And I've seen people do that sometimes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to give money away.
Okay.
Unless you got kids. They take it all.
So our next workshop, I believe it's on Wednesday next week, real estate and succession planning. Do you want to talk a little bit of preview about what that will be about?
Succession planning is, what do you do, like Damien, how he's going to make sure that that money is taken care of, or those properties are taken care of. How do you set up a plan for the next generation, or if another manager is coming in? Like, there should always be a plan to how things are going to happen if something happens to one of the partners or a family member, because one of the worst things that can happen is properties to go into probate. You automatically are losing 25 to 30% through legal fees and government fees. So let's just say your family portfolio was worth $10 million. You get into probate, you've lost $3 million off the top, and that is ridiculous. So you got to have a trust, you have to have things in order. So that's what it'll be about.
Awesome. Wonderful.
All right. Well, I'm going to get home to my son and watch the Lakers game.
Okay, I do see in the last question. Thank you
Go
so
for it.
much. She asking about the names of the books that you referenced. I'm gonna get those names of the books from Odessa and I'm gonna put them in our newsletter just so people can have them. I know there's a lot of resources like being like thrown. And then you know what, for the next workshop, I'm gonna make sure those books are listed and as a resource. All right. And then again, if you have any questions, or another question, Paulette.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Will you do a workshop or will there be a workshop on how to like run an Airbnb or short-term rental? Like, is that covered anywhere in what you guys do, or would I
I
just need to
So
like work with one of
Alicia
you?
would have been perfect. She was doing Airbnbs a couple of years ago. So I know
yeah,
she could talk on that subject.
we'll talk about that. Like right now, we just kind of kicked off the Real Wealth Strategy series, which is all real estate focused with these initial 4 workshops. But
Mhm.
if you have like things that you want us to talk about, please email us. Let us know like what you want to learn, and we can like build something towards that. So thank you for sharing, like, because I know a few people have asked about short-term rentals and like what like opportunities in that wheelhouse. So I will get with the SoCal PPM team and see if maybe we can maybe do like a workshop or something focused on that.
We could
Thank you.
definitely, Alicia would have to lead that one. I know how to do the funding and how to locate the properties, but that's a lot of work. She's more organized and operational than I am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for everyone that has joined us today. And be sure to join us next week for real estate and succession planning. If you have questions, want to connect with the SoCal PPM team or just myself, I put my Calendly link in the chat. Feel free to reach out and everything. And yeah, I look forward till next time.
Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, thank you. Have a great week.
Thank
You as
you.
well.
Night.
Thank you.